interesting things again, but for now, they're content to just mass Marines and lose. So with that said, let's get into it. Cosmic Sapphire in the bottom right. We have the red Protoss player. He is DisK.
And in the top left, his opponent, it is the blue Protoss player for License to Kill, Nina.
The PvP. I've always liked this matchup for Nina. I think for DisK kind of just generally plays strong and a little bit aggressive. So I don't know that really changes much. I could easily see this turning into just like an absolute slugfest, crazy stuff, harass prisms on both sides sort of thing. But if one thing's for certain, cats, it's I don't think either of these players are thinking about sitting back and putting it on cruise control. I don't think we're going to get a very passive series, and that always excites me.
Yeah, I think that we'll get an active series, most likely in the mid game and maybe come the late game. Like, both players are very capable of harassing a lot, but I don't see either of them all-inning that much. I think that if anything, Nina would be more likely perhaps than DisK to throw in all-ins in this matchup. And I think that also in PvP, Nina is a little bit more constricted, weirdly enough, as opposed to in PvT, where we can see like the Colossus drops, and in PvC, where she can get all sorts of crazy stuff with like Disruptor drops and whatnot. PvP has options, but they are mostly explored because so many things are viable that the standard extends to involve them, basically, right? Like, we could see Phoenix, but that wouldn't be too far out of the norm. We could see Blink Stalkers, but that's also within the cards. We could see the 2 Adepts opening. Like, right now we see Stalker Sentry versus Stalker. So there's a lot of variance in PvP, and a lot is viable in PvP, which makes it difficult for players that are surprising and unique to really kind of have their own thumbprint, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the unique kind of flavor of the way that they like to play is what makes it interesting. I'm always excited to watch a Nina match in particular because she just does wild stuff. Yesterday, it was we saw High Templar zone out the entire map from Scarlet, and it was actually on this map, Cosmic Sapphire, where their series came to that crazy end all the way to the final building being taken down. So if it's anywhere close to that level of wild, I'm going to be more than satisfied. And what a great match to end on as PvP these days. I just tend to find be a little bit more on the interesting side. Nina does have a probe in the bottom left corner of the map, so whether that ends up causing anything, who knows? Oh,
okay.
Thank you, Nina. I know you were waiting for me to mention the probe before you did it, so that's great. Twilight Council is going to line up with that, so could proxy a Dark Shrine if she wants. I'm just going to put it out there. Yep. Not saying it's going to happen, but it could.
Very well could also go for a couple of Adepts warped in, or both even, right? Like, harassment, I think both players are going to be very adept. No pun intended. And we'll see what they choose to do here, as the first Oracle is going to get spotted and tagged by Nina's Hallucinated Phoenix for the duration of its life. And I assume this will change trajectory on the Oracle, maybe. Yeah, it goes now towards the natural instead of the main. But that is also somewhat predictable, right? Because if I'm anticipating that's what he maybe should do, players at this level also will. So we can see Nina repositioning to the natural to account for that.
And there is the shield battery here to retreat to as well. So maybe a probe on the edge can get picked off, and there you go, two of them. I think considering everything that we just said and the way this setup was well set up, 2 probes isn't so bad, and the Oracle does make it away. Nina finished that pylon, the probe left, and it is now returning, so maybe it's just going to be a gateway to supplement the attack and help her warp in a bunch of Blink Stalkers and try to play around that timing.
Yeah. I think when you look at the openers and you say, okay, that was the first Oracle, it only killed 2 probes, yeah, whatever, that's fine. But when you look at the fact that Nina tagged the first Oracle and she knew that it was coming and she had the units to answer to it, I feel like she didn't need to take that damage also, right? So she could definitely be in a slightly better position, but as it stands, 2 probes to the first Oracle is not the worst. She's 41 workers still to 38, so she is going to be just fine as both players transition into now Blink.
Yeah, and we get to the good old meat and potatoes of Protoss versus Protoss. And I love the gateway on the bottom side, not only, of course, for harass down the line, but just reinforcement if that third base on the left gets taken by DisK, or even if it's a fourth down the line. Looks like the probe is going to take the base right outside the main for him, as Nina has already started up her third base, and it's halfway done. So feeling pretty good economically, and I think that it's exactly what we were kind of talking about, Cats. They're on the map, they're active, they're looking for each other, nobody's sitting back, but they've both got like a macro focused mind. They're not looking to do a big all in. Let's see what Nina can do, though. There's quite a few stalkers poking away at that third base. The count as it stands, 13 for DisK, 10 for Nina. Nina does have the sentry, though, to help mitigate some of this damage.
Yeah, but there's no shield battery, unfortunately, for her, and the engagement starts in the favor of DisK with all of his stalkers firing against Nina, who now joins with her entire army, but not for the first start of for the first couple of seconds of the fight, and that does matter. Still, she's gonna have barely enough, as DisK is not really reinforcing this, so maybe overstaying his welcome after Nina does get her warpins in. And yeah, I mean that is still dangerous from Nina. I would really love to see a shield battery added here.
Yeah, it's something you got to take advantage of. Well, I'd say defender's advantage, of course, and though that battery is, like you were saying, but 7 stalkers to 8. It's a little bit slower reinforcement for DisK, though. Nina steps forward, trying to get a target fired down. A couple more of them are going to get popped, and well, we've had a nice 2-minute long engagement here so far, Cats.
Yeah, but a lot of the stalkers of Nina are getting really, really low. She's trying to buy time for that shield battery. That'll be the turning point for her to stabilize here. But if we look at the units lost, she's lost considerably more than DisK, and she also took the stasis ward to the face. Luckily for her, these 2 adepts that we were talking about from the proxy gateway, right? Like, we knew that the potential was there earlier. They have done a wonderful job to equalize, as they have killed now. Well, they should kill 10 workers, but they'll only get 9.
Yeah, 2 of those probes had gotten tagged, so could have been a little bit more. I think killing those workers, forcing the units to come back, gives Nina that breath of fresh air. So buying a bit of time, and now the Dark Shrine comes up, and I love to see this play because, I mean, first of all, DisK might be thinking that there is a gateway out there, so I do think he'll find it if he looks diligently, or diligently. Anyway,
it's a pretty weird pocket, right? Hard to find.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this map has a lot of weird spaces that are seemingly useless for anything other than proxying stuff.
Yeah,
like that whole top right
yeah.
section, the high ground in the very top right. It literally serves no purpose other than to hide something there.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is kind of cool. But Nina is gonna look to stabilize as DisK. Again, both of these players will like the adepts to harass, and that is kind of a mark of a good player, because these units are not particularly expensive either, right? So just to put a dent in the opponent's economy is really important. Nina will have no problems holding at the front with now the immortal advantage that she has, and DisK has more or less equalized in terms of workers as well during all of this, as Nina has stopped after saturating her third. So a pretty even game, as the income graph also shows. It has been going back and forth, and now it should start looking pretty even up until both players start saturating their fourths, which they have just taken.
Yeah, so we get to that point now where we're going to find out what the follow-up tech is going to be as these Dark Templars show up. And okay, first information has come out. Cats, are you getting me excited? You're bringing out the shark noises. Now I need the sound effects.
I was hoping I was singing the right tune, but I wasn't sure.
You're trying to summon meme Thanius over here. A lot of probes getting popped, by the way. A couple of adepts did slip into Nina's third base, so it's not like she isn't taking damage on the back side of this, but she's up 57 to 49. So that 10 worker lead, obviously very nice. The whole entire army of DisK has retreated into the main base to try and help stop this. So bit awkward. It's going to have to resaturate. Actually, might need to move some more probes into that main, because saturating the geysers is going to take all the mineral income out of it.
Yeah, and DTs are pretty cool because they'll also force your opponent basically to make cannons. You can't have observers everywhere. You have to just recognize that and drop a cannon per mineral line, and that's exactly what we see from DisK. But we also see it from Nina, which I love. Even though she hasn't seen DTs from DisK, just making her own DTs will put in your mind easily. And this is one way to do it. We were talking about it with Roddy earlier, but kind of like as a StarCraft player, right? Especially in a mirror matchup, when you are doing something, it's easy to remind yourself that your opponent can also do that and take measures to prevent it. So I like those cannons as well from Nina.
Yeah, and that third base too. Just a great job of holding on to that. Is kind of then the target for a lot of the harass and keeping the gateway in the bottom left that never got spotted. So there's always those opportunities to keep moving and poking. Sees the Prism. Now? Prism sees the Adepts.
Yeah.
So you're so close. You're so close.
So close. Yeah, these cannons are going to be good as well against the Adepts. In the main, there is no cannon, however, so the Adepts are going to get free reign here. And Nina has hold position in the Adepts just to avoid microing them, not knowing whether there is a cannon. Now that there's weapons, she's going to move them a little bit and maybe find 1 or 2 more probes. Actually might find the exit with the Adepts, but really in a fight, the Adepts are kind of useless, so you really just want to use them to harass as much as possible.
I'm getting nervous, cats. This Prism is gonna shape a lot of what happens. More Adepts are gonna go in to do the harass, but I'm waiting for this moment where 30 charge lots are gonna get moved to Nina's base, because DisK is gonna realize that this isn't going to work if he just sits back and doesn't use these units. And then I'm looking at the disruptors coming out for Nina, and I feel like I've seen this
film before.
I've seen this before. I've seen this one before. I think it was Nina against some other Protoss. Yeah, this is my Back to the Future reference of the year. I'll never make another one.
I thought we were doing Taylor Swift.
Oh,
that's so sad. But
no. I'm always.
But yeah.
We'll find another one.
Sounds good. But yeah, the disruptor shot will whiff. I actually am nervous for Nina because disruptors against Zealots, if you're firing from far away, yeah, the Zealots clump up and you can get billions of Zealots killed, right? But if the Zealots are charging into your army, it's very difficult to actually land disruptor shots that don't also hurt your army. And the Zealots are kind of naturally spread because they're thin enough that if they get enough surface area, they're not gonna clump up. So it's not easy to get too many Zealots there. And normally, what Nina has bypassed that allows for an easy defense against this many Zealots is the Archon, and that's just a piece that's missing from her army. The good thing for her, however, is this map is extremely choky, so it kind of makes me question a little bit the army composition of DisK and whether he should be splitting his army into 2 halves or something of the sorts.
Yeah, and we do have another little counterattack. A bunch of DTs actually pick off a pylon being used to warp in some reinforcements. DisK has his own Dark Shrine though, but has not really been able to get that same amount of damage in.
See, Nina wishes those had been 2 or 3 Archons to augment her army. This is really scary to play without Archons against this many Zealots.
It's gonna be all about the disruptors trying to hit that clump before, because that is a good thing to mention as well. The Zealots, when they charge, that does naturally split them up because they path around themselves. They path around the other ones. You know, that's StarCraft 2 has some pretty wild, fantastic pathfinding. Yeah. But if you don't have them charging, then they clump up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good zoning from Nina here, recognizing that if the Zealots get on top of her army, it's going to be problematic. On the other side, I like what DisK is doing, splitting a few Zealots, but this position is so fortified from Nina, and she's attentive enough to kind of just refocus her shield battery to make sure that it's healing those cannons. Now she's in a fantastic position. A few Zealots will fall there, and again, claiming a really good position forward. That's a nasty one, and another one. Oh man, this is getting really, really bad for DisK. Finally with his own disruptor.
Oh, I think DisK just blew up a bunch of his own Zealots with that one. I think that last disruptor shot was DisK. Now, the only thing, he's got a Hail Mary play to throw, a bunch of DTs coming in. The Observer has been sieged up here for DisK, so he knows, and theoretically the disruptors could hit the DTs, but they all got focused very quickly. Nina wins the fight in such a brilliant manner, but the Invisible Man is a very dangerous one to battle.
It sure is. And I mean, complete oversaturation. As you can see, 36 out of 16 here at this base for DisK. So if we look at the income tab, we'll just confirm how far ahead Nina is. And yeah, I mean, never mind the army as well, right? 28 supply ahead there when I was saying that. Now a little bit less, but things are looking very, very difficult for DisK, and now he just basically has to rely on miracle disruptor shots if he wants any chance at this game.
Yeah, that's basically what it boils down to. And Nina has quite a few Dark Templars. Beautiful. She is researching Shadow Stride. So 2 of the DTs go for the cannons and batteries. The other 2, the rest of them go for the Nexus. And keeping DisK on 3 bases, that alone is going to be enough to just make this impossible for him to come back. Like you said, disruptors, there's always a chance, but when it's 3 bases versus 5, and well, Nina getting that 6, getting up to that 6th base, then you start to feel like trades.
Okay.
I don't know if they can be that bad, but if the trade, finish my sentence. I'll put my foot in my mouth right here. You know, if the trades, you can kind of get away with some bad trades when you're up, 6 bases, now 7, actually going for the 7th base against 3. But maybe not that. You don't want to DisK maybe just pulls everything and just sends it.
No, if Nina just had a slight army lead, it would have been gone, right? But because she has pretty much every lead heading into that fight, she basically has multiple lives. So I'm completely with you. Like, the disruptors can win you an engagement like we just saw, but DisK needs a lot more than just winning one engagement. It's going to be very, very difficult for him, as now Nina is going to be extra cautious, blinking really, really early there to avoid those shots. And yeah, she wants to continue to apply pressure here, continuing to expand as well on both sides of the map, taking every single base on her side. So this looks fantastic for her right now still.
Yeah, but when the probes are long distance mining, 16 minutes into a PvP like this, you're just in a tough spot. The disruptors, again, we're just going to have to hammer that home. You're going to need at least 2 or 3 of those just completely spread over the whole army. And you just have to bowl it all over and just hope that you can make that counter push. But that's assuming that Nina's disruptors aren't going to get anything done on their own, which would be assuming a lot. Because if that's, I mean, we've already seen Nina's control, obviously very, very good. DisK is going to try to make something happen now. Does catch a few of the disruptors, though. So that's a big pickup.
Oh, Nina's going to do the same. Going to pick off just 1 by the looks of it. And yeah, I'm with you. I mean, DisK would need a ridiculous fight, then cross the map, and then Nina would still have to kind of mess up and engage DisK before it's time, because really she has more than double the amount of bases that DisK has, which means she can just, oh my god, almost again, which means she can just kind of bide her time and wait and lose a few bases and be completely fine with it, which is what she might do here because she can afford to, right? Like, she doesn't need to engage. I almost don't like this engagement, but it might just work anyway.
Yeah, I think it's possible to defend. Like, there's not that many disruptors, and the overcharge was on the battery, but as that runs out, it's just, like, the fact that we're even having this conversation, that there's so many cannons that have been built that you can defend with less units, it says everything. GG. Nina takes game 1, dominant fashion. Key takeaways there are the adepts from that gateway, the scouting for that gateway multiple times that never found it, and yeah, I mean, those are really like the absolute biggest things to me. And then, of course, the disruptors, just using those, zoning. Nina, if you're playing against Nina, she's going to get disruptors. If you're Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, she loves them, and she's very good at controlling those units.
Yeah. And while I'm nowhere close to as good as these players in this matchup, I still have a lot of questions about the composition for this. He made so many Zealots. And on a map that's wide open, where you're contesting for a 4th or a 5th, and you can come from every angle and get huge surrounds, fantastic. But on this map, where he was trying to attack into Nina, it is far too choky, right? So those Zealots are going to be clumped. You're going to be retreating through chokes, and then the disruptors get to shine. If there's Archons, the situation doesn't get any better. And even against the Stalkers, there's not going to be enough surface area there. So DisK was really hoping, I think, for an engagement in the middle of the map near the watchtower, where you could get like a 360 surround, and then the Zealots are going to be fantastic. But Nina never allowed for that. Her pathing was too good. So yeah, I think a few adjustments needed on the side of DisK, but we know he's a fantastic player, and of course he'll be on the lookout for those.
Yeah. We'll move to Moon Dance for game number 2. And look, Nina gotta be feeling good about that one. Maybe DisK tries to turn up the heat. I think there's also a fair point to be made that DisK does not have to go for a mass charge lot as the follow-up to the Blink Stalker phase. It's kind of easy when you already have a lot of gateways, you already have the ground upgrades going, you have the Twilight Council. Yeah, just press the C button, spam out a bunch of Zealots. It's not the hardest transition to make. But going into those disruptors, that's where you're going to get all your value from. And Nina having so many of them is the only reason she was able to make that huge push in the way that she did. Because otherwise it turns into a blink battle, which is really hard when your opponent has 30 charged zealots.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a little bit easier on chokes, but hard in open space. I think neither player was really comfortable going for like carrier transitions or something like that. Maybe we just didn't get that late into the game. But still, a lot of cards left on the table for both players to play with. This is one of the most dynamic, most exciting matchups PvP, in the sense that pretty much everything's viable, and that is super fun for me. So players can very much have options here, and we'll see which paths they choose to take as we are now in the game. And spawning in the bottom right-hand side for Apprentice Esports, it is DisK.
And in the top left, leading the series 1-0, coming from LTK, she is Nina. Fascinating, by the way. You know, LTK is a name that stands out to me because I think I get one based by every single person I hit on ladder with that clan tag, and it stands out to me twice as much because Nina is not that person.
Right.
So, kind of funny contrast there.
No, I agree. Yeah.
You know, sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, well, what if I did just start cheesing every single game and saying it was because I want to be competitive? And honestly, I don't. That's not really what anybody at the high level does.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
It's got to be a little spice. It's got to be a little spice. Variety. Yeah. It's all about the variety.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's playstyle wise, the LTK members can be spicy. Sometimes they can have some choice words and actions as well, right? Like, which is I think
play
not
with
very
chat
much
turned off. Best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
Best decision I've ever made.
Yeah. But they have license to kill, so they had, some of them think they have license for everything. And
yeah, I mean, if you can legally kill somebody, then I guess how many things are really off limits? Yeah, I guess I should probably be less judgmental. Is really what I'm learning about myself in this conversation.
Sure. I mean, they do have some very nice members as well, like some very lovely people. But
like Nina.
Yeah, like Nina. Yeah, Nina's great example.
I love this from DisK. You know, we get it kind of mixed up a little bit. Still looks similar to the last game, but here we are. We've got the Stargate proxied forward, pretty close, but not too close to be super easy to scout. So let's see what happens.
We'll see what happens indeed. I mean, it's going to be the Adepts started here for DisK, so that should be a little bit of a hint for Nina. Usually Adepts are, a lot cheaper on the gas investment, so it's the most common way to go into Stargate, I would say, the biggest giveaway, right? Because it's going to allow for your Stargate 50 resources earlier, which is not nothing when you're talking about gas. And I mean, this is the Adept opening plus the positioning of the Stargate. Okay, this takes a couple of seconds longer than I would have expected, but the Oracle will make it in very good time on the other side of the map. That said, Nina already reacting with a shield battery, so she will be plenty ready.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. If you get to the 2 Oracle point, then it's it's like the Banshee, right? You can kind of punch through it. You get all that burst damage out, but that definitely requires a little bit of micro. And I think that DisK down the stretch will probably be looking to do that. Or I was gonna say I don't think you build just one from the proxy anyway. So Nina will still have to be on top of making sure that the Oracles don't come in uncontested. And I mean, assuming that the probes weren't reacting, if something crazy was happening, okay, at least get the one by the ramp, but could eventually see stasis, right? That'll be just as effective in this matchup as any other for locking up workers.
For sure. Here comes the next Oracle, so we'll see if Nina will manage to position her units accordingly and be able to absorb that. It's gonna be taking the same angle from which the first Oracle left, so shouldn't be too unexpected for Nina. Can we look at the setup inside of her base? And she has 2 sentries and a stalker. Not the best positions, but good enough, I think, for this. Very near the shield battery as well. So she should be fine. On the other side, DisK is going to attempt at a poke, but unluckily for him, the Nexus is not even finished. So Nina is going to have no problem readjusting there. Here come the Oracles. Go for the probes on the outskirts here. Very good control from DisK to find 8 probes in the midst of all of these happening. And the Adepts also absorbing the aggro there from the sentries and the stalkers. Wow, brilliant job from DisK. Now Nina trying to apply some counter pressure.
Nina needs to answer back big time. There is not a shield battery here. The Adepts, of course, you should be one-shotting the probes with 2 of them, but good response time by DisK. And now Nina finds herself a little bit down on the worker count, and they both have the Nexus finished. So it's not like there's an opportunity to get the worker count up faster than the other player unless somebody makes a mistake or cuts probes for whatever reason. DisK, you have to be happy with that because at the same time, the Oracles are still alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to keep Nina pinned back a little bit as well, potentially, right? It's going to be very difficult for her to move out without leaving some units in the back to account for those oracles. So even if you can kill one of these oracles, it's usually a huge victory. They're not cheap units, but they have a lot of longevity throughout the game, and they really force you to kind of stay back and look out for them constantly. So now DisK is going to be poking at the front here. The pylon is a little bit exposed, so I like that he has noticed that. Now with the help of the shield battery, but the oracles are gonna backstab again, and Nina having to turn her attention, not managing to kill that one oracle again. That would have been a really nice pick-off, and bringing the stalkers from the main. But very good, very clean game from DisK so far.
Yeah, and I don't think that this stops at any point. I think if you're DisK, the greatest advantage that you can take the greatest thing you can take advantage of is just keeping the oracles alive. He's going to drop the stasis wards back at his natural. Does not want to get caught off guard or pushed in too much. But I think you get this set up. I don't even know if you need to keep the oracles here and just wait. And if Nina comes and attacks you while you're macroing up and getting all the things that you need, then you can be fine. But having everything on deck is also acceptable because, I mean, he is ahead economically. Nina's catching up, of course. She's putting the focus on the probes, but definitely nice to have gotten so many worker kills. 17 probes killed by DisK in this game versus 5.
Yeah, somehow he's only 3 probes ahead while still probing up, so it's not like he's done with that. And now dropping a 3rd. So really good job of Nina, probably kernel boosting those probes and trying to catch back up. And yeah, I think the Adepts or the Oracles pulling back is kind of a statement on the side of DisK, which says, I am pretty far ahead. You should be attacking me if you want to stand a chance at this game. But Nina, having committed to economy and to re-establishing that economy as fast as she did, might stand a chance here. And maybe that was an opening for DisK not to be out on the map, not to continue to try to apply the pressure. Now, he has saturated his 2 bases fast enough that he deems his production should be kicking in, his economy advantage should be kicking in, and he feels a little bit more confident to move out on the map. However, these 2 Adepts are gonna show up unannounced.
Yeah, and Nina definitely wants to be getting some damage in. The worker count is starting to equalize, but DisK has a lot of units outside of her base, and if she gets baited out, she moves too far. The Oracles are waiting for their opportunity too. So Adepts come back over to the natural of DisK, and Nina is going to be able to equalize and get a little bit ahead now in workers the first time in this game. So that's definitely a big one, but the Oracles answer back.
Yeah, very important for DisK because this game was starting to slip away and really for no good reason, right? So he is going to do equalizing damage on the other side to the economy of Nina. Nina is going to just continue to hold her units in position there to absorb whatever damage DisK is trying to do, and this game might yet stabilize. And I can tell you, if DisK somehow ends up losing this game, he is not going to be happy at all about it because it really was well within reach, like very much so in his grasp, and now it's not over. You know, like it should be over. He killed so much so early.
As far as the army supply is concerned, it's still very close. We have 17 stalkers for DisK, 15 for Nina. A few more coming in, of course, as this happens, but it's not really enough to just, like you said, just push it and win from all the damage that's been inflicted. Nina is having to catch up in probes a little bit, but let's see what DisK can do as he jumps inside of the main base.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that Twilight Archives. It's not gonna be too bad for Nina to lose at this point. As I already... what is she lacking? A just charge, right? Surely she didn't get the charge. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be something.
Again.
That's the thing, right? She didn't even get Zealots last game, so I don't know that she minds too much.
No, it's not. It's not the end of the world. Might affect some Dark Templar harass down the stretch, but...
True.
Otherwise, I think she's just in survive mode. And in PvP, disruptors are going to start to equalize things no matter what, because even if you're behind, you know, we know that they can be strong. And that's actually, she recognizes not as many, that's not everything that DisK has, not really as close to as many stalkers. So she's able to take advantage of that. And by not making that investment into the charge lots, not getting that +1 at that time, You know, by being more focused on just reaching this tech point, I think that helps too with Nina's comeback potential on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nina is now out on the map. She has, deemed it that she can take some map control after evaluating her opponent's army time and time again. Both players now entering that disruptor phase that you were talking about. They are kind of just proceeding, and now it's going to be DisK that pulls ahead a little bit in terms of the upgrade, as Nina is dropping a forge just now. It feels like, right? How do you check the upgrades on this interface, Nate? Is there an easy way? Okay, like sometimes it's just the one upgrade for DisK right now. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it is G. So it's just the one upgrade for DisK, which means DisK is going to be getting ahead in upgrades by a lot, because Nina hasn't even started the +1, and DisK is already working on +2.
Yeah, so the disruptors, again, going to be leaning on those as that equalizer. So Nina hoping to out-control, which, I mean, it worked pretty well in the last game, but obviously the circumstances of how we got there were very different from this one. Nina was in a dominant position for the majority of game one. DisK on much more even footing. We're going to really get to see what he's made of. And he also hasn't invested 3,000 minerals into zealots that are all going to die. So I think much better game state for the Red Protoss here.
Yeah, without a doubt. At the same time, I feel like it should even be better for him given the early game. So it's going to be a little bit demoralizing that this game is even going and it's even as it is. But yeah, it's actually Nina that has map control right now. And DisK does have disruptors out, but so does Nina. Nina also producing 2 at a time. Now DisK has slowed down to 1 at a time. And yeah, Nina's going to start catching up in those upgrades as well. But the game is going the distance, which means it's really anyone's to take right now.
Yeah, and Nina does like to be out on the map, bringing the pressure. She's always looking for that opportunity to zone away, and that's where you can kind of force that mistake. Do you stand and deliver? Disruptor shot goes out, does not connect. Second Nova coming through. We'll get a single Stalker. So this is where it gets a little bit tense, because you're off cooldown. You have that concave for DisK. His disruptors are not there quite yet, though, so he can't really go for the punish. You see those force fields. Oh, well, changed my mind there. Okay, came from the north side. Disruptors. Well, there it is. There it is.
That was beautiful.
I'm
beautiful disruptor.
That's some game 3 energy right there out of DisK.
Yeah, absolutely. Game 3 energy?
Game 3 energy.
As Apollo would say, Nate, you love it, you wear it.
You wear it.
You wear it.
Well, got a couple of the other disruptors from Nina there too. So how do you defend this base? Now she's the one that's being zoned away, and that economic brutality continues. The base is gone. The probes are on the run, and Nina does not really have many options. You're like, okay, maybe if DisK kills enough, then he'll like step back, thinking he doesn't want to overextend. But I'm not sure he's at risk of overextending anymore. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and it seems like Nina might have lent DisK her license to kill here, because he's looking good in this one to close it out.
Good. What a callback. Man, this has been a great episode. Love it. Love to see it. What will the writers think of next? And +3 attack. Let's not forget that. In any of these like little scrappy equal fights, Nina should just straight up lose, because unless she has overwhelming numbers or DisK makes a huge mistake, his units are just better. They're just built different.
When there's the charge or their lack of coming into play. Now we can recall back to the foreshadowing that was in this episode, the taking down of the Templar archives.
All the disruptors are kind of chilling out here, but you don't want to dive straight onto them, because there's enough that if they all fire at once, at least 1 or 2 will go off, and that would probably do it for this game. Nina at 74 army supply to 121 of DisK. It's 23 Stalkers versus 44. And the crazy thing is, that's actually not the most meaningful stat, right? 7 disruptors versus 8. So it could swing the other way, as insane as that sounds. And Nina is somebody that has done that before. It would not be the first PvP that she's pulled from the abyss with those disruptors, but that one is not able to get off. That would have been a huge one.
That would have been massive. And Blink was on cooldown still, so it was DisK. Nina
just killed all of DisK's disruptors. That was all of DisK's disruptors. He has 1 left now. So while that was happening, Nina killed all of his disruptors, and she's only down 10 Stalkers. So without the disruptors, all of a sudden, we got ourselves a ball game? Question mark.
Nice. I
What
mean,
a twist.
yeah. I think so. I mean, that's actually absurd because DisK had already won this game in my mind, and I was just waiting for the closing moments. But if that happened as you claim that it did,
You went off this wild ride. I barely caught it.
I mean, this is not over by any means.
It's like you want to keep the disruptors away. You don't want them too far to the front so they don't get poked. But at the same time, if they're not with the army, then that's, they're vulnerable. If your eyes are on the stalkers, that Nova coming out the side is going to be dangerous. We haven't gotten to see a tremendous amount of games on Moondance, but I do have to say all the line of sight blockers are probably part of what makes it so nuts, because you just don't know what's on the other side of half of these spots until you just shoot the Nova through. So I think that's probably why we're seeing so much madness.
Absolutely, and that makes the positioning so much more important for that reason. This should really go to clean up those rocks, right? A couple of shots from his entire army will do it, and it will make it a lot easier for him to start moving around with this army that wants to be very mobile. So if you want to move around, that's what you should do. I like what this DisK is doing here, going for the counterattack, just going for the base trade at this point. He has a lot of bases to work with. No! Oh! Actually tries for the kind of like the manual split there. I'm not sure if Blink was on cooldown at that point, maybe being a little bit overly fancy. And this recall is kind of crazy because if there is enough disruptors, there's 3 of them, this could get really dangerous. 2 stalkers will fall to the first ball as Zealots without charge are chasing after the army still.
Yeah, and left some behind too. DTs though, just bringing them over. Those getting baited out a little bit could end up working against him, and this is just absurd. So the DTs have Blink. The armies have been traded out. Now the supplies are really close again, but there's nothing in this 4th base to deal with the Dark Templar. The probes are actually getting blocked, trying to run away, and they have Shadow Stride. So when that observer, I mean, it could never have gotten there fast enough to do anything about that. That might have been the killing blow again. I'm going to just say it for the 3rd time this game. Another killing blow onto the mineral line.
Both of these players have died multiple times here. And yeah, I mean, this game is still going. It is a crazy game. It is a very chaotic game, very NA game. And you love to see it. I mean, I really enjoy this sort of, I hesitate to call it a clown fiesta.
No, I mean, this is like when the Disruptor was first being discovered in Legacy of the Void, and every PvP was just like, watching the World Series of bowling. Great show, by the way, worth watching if you're into that stuff. But yeah, that's where we are right now. And it's just, are the Disruptors going to hit the big shots for both players? So far, the answer has been yes. I think this is the exact mirror scenario, though, economically from game 1. Oh, the rip! Well, there you go. So here's the issue. This time, Nina is not at 6 bases versus 3. And Nina is the one that has 3 bases mining. And DisK, not really 6 bases, but both of those bottom left expansions have a lot of resources left. So while that natural starts to mine out and that 3rd base gets a little bit lower, Nina's going to have a really hard time getting back up to max. And the only thing keeping DisK away is the disruptor count. Nina has 9, DisK has 6.
Yeah, so it's very difficult for this to engage. I'm not sure that he should even be trying, though. It's very strange to me that Nina is keeping map control with 131 supply to a max out Protoss army from DisK, right? And DisK, I think this kind of speaks to the players and just kind of their mindset as far as how they approach StarCraft. DisK is more willing to absorb more often and more willing to play kind of like the long, drawn-out macro game, kind of like Geralt would in the European scene. And Nina is much more proactive usually in the stages of the game. She wants to showcase her micro and, fight basically, right? Like put her micro to good use. But I mean, if you're DisK,
the high ground shot from the back.
If you're DisK, you don't have to do this.
Oh, it's the DT. The DTs are on her army. Did the observer get popped? Oh, well, playtime's over, looks like.
One disruptor shot, almost catching all of them. That disruptor shot was absolutely massive onto all of the stalkers. But now DisK, I mean, even if he trades poorly here, he should be able to close out this game very soon. Nina is working with very limited economy right now, maybe something like 1 base and a half, whereas DisK is kind of just, fully operational on that front. So again, let's pull up the income tab if we haven't already. I'm sorry, it was out. There it is. So yeah, looking pretty nasty for Nina, and it has been for a while. It's just DisK is respecting Nina's army a little bit too much. Just go across the map, kill her, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
she
the end
has
of this
baited
episode.
him a few times in this, but DisK has to give himself a bit of credit. He's got 3,000 minerals. He's maxed out. Nina is broke and under 100 supply, and he's got the upgrades. He's got +3. He's got +1 armor, +1 shields. And I'm going to even give a shout out for the observer speed, because the observers ended up being so crucial, because that one fight where it seemed like Nina might have taken control back of the game in the bottom left, the DTs just came out and just absolutely crushed everything. So
Yeah.
Nina likes to fight until the last couple of units, which is something that we were reminded of with that crazy final game against Scarlet yesterday.
Yeah.
And to be fair, things almost turned around several times.
Yeah, she has excellent micro, and while you have disruptors, there's that's the thing that we say, right? There's always a chance, but I mean, DisK is, like 38 or 61 army supply should not be chasing away 129 army supply. That's just not, what the designers, what the writers intended.
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, let's face it. We need a little bit more drama. We need some better ratings. People don't give NA enough credit for the hype. So if we don't have a game 3, are we really selling this?
Yeah.
And yeah, I enjoy getting nice and meta with you, Cats, instead of pretending like we don't see the fourth wall. But
No, I completely agree with you. Oh, there we
DisK
go.
would he'd need to throw it pretty hard to lose from this spot, and I don't think he's going to. Nina's disruptors we just saw get popped, so the DTs, the other disruptors, they're gonna move in, blows up one of his own DTs. Sometimes it'd be like that.
Finally, the GG comes out, but DisK really had to work for that one. So, I would still be kind of frustrated and exhausted. Let's see if we can get a cheeky smile out of him, or
Gotta be feeling good. I mean, dude, that game was crazy, and no matter how far ahead we thought he was at any point, it was not even, I don't even feel like it was close to being over until Nina had mined out her bases, because she was still keeping up macro-wise. Her production was great. It really didn't feel like she was reeling that much, even when she was like 60 supply behind, because, well, we've said it a couple times, but the disruptors, and on Moondance, it really actually changes the way that I'm going to think about that map, probably forever. Just so many there really are so many dark spaces that you just walk into, and if you look at it zoomed out, you're like, oh, it's just pretty, these are all details. But you're like, no, every single one of those little light strips you can't see the other side of without an air unit. So, or just walking through it, and that led to a very exciting game. I think we can all agree.
yeah,
And
that's where we need a
picture
picture of what the player sees while we see from the GAT camera view, right? Like, cause it's like you're saying, sometimes they get less than a second to react at all, or not even that if their camera is not there, right? Because they don't get the heads up, and the path blockers can be really nifty. So I completely agree with you. And now we are headed on to the last map of the series and of the day. It will be Data C. And let's see how much data can load onto this one, because that last one had so many twists and turns, Nate. I mean, it should have ended multiple times, I felt like, but it just didn't.
Yeah. If anything stands out, though, I think, we can all kind of see, and I think comments and chat throughout the game are also kind of agreeing with this, but if Nina hadn't taken so many probe losses in the first couple minutes there, 17 workers to 5 before they were really getting into those big fights, I think that game looks very different, because as we saw, she was still in it for so long, and there were so many times where it seemed like it might turn around. So if you're DisK, you got to keep the pressure up. I wouldn't even mind seeing something like that Oracle build again. I think that Nina will have her eyes open for it, but definitely bring that pressure, because as you can see, even the player that people might be saying is favored, they're not bulletproof. They're not gods. We're all still meek, feeble-minded humans, right? We can only do so much.
Very true, Nate. But we are finally loaded in and spawning in the bottom left-hand side. It is for Apprentice Esports, trying to kill without any license, illegally, some would say, DisK. And
in the top right, we have the blue Protoss player, Nina.
Does have the license, should she need it.
Yeah, well, someone in chat, guy in chat said that you can't lend out a license to kill. And I mean, I haven't read all, it's like those things, like even in StarCraft, people they just reference all this lore that's from the books, which are, like, I don't even know if they're officially licensed, but they're certainly not made by the people who made the game. So
right.
Maybe there's some lore in the 007 universe that we're just not aware of, where, there was actually a whole thing about lending it out, and it's not allowed apparently. So
right,
we'll try to keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I believe there is a tradition. I don't think it was like its expiry date was relatively recent, if it is not still ongoing. But I believe that there are some parts of Italy, maybe Rainer or someone can chime in, where vendetta is still a thing. And vendetta is when someone kills someone in your family, you have effectively a license to kill. Like you can
like some honor bound thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can take revenge if someone kills someone. Yeah,
the whole thing is silly anyway, because in every movie right before Bond goes and takes out the entire enemy base, they always take away they're like, oh, you're going on your own, we don't support this anyway. So he loses his license to kill and then goes and does all of it. So it's really just
wait
I just
Bond
got
had a license to kill for real?
I mean, it's a movie.
I don't know. I've never known with you.
It's a movie. I don't know. It could be a real person, I guess. If we ever found out.
No. I mean, in the movies.
So.
Did he have a license to kill? Like, are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the whole meme. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
One of the movies is literally License to Kill. So I'd have to assume that if he only had it in one movie, it would at least be that one. But it's like any good cop movie, right? At the final moment,
did he ever show the
turn in your bag
certificate?
and your gun and your license to kill. I'm going to go take out the bad guy anyway. Like, well,
that would be amazing.
At least nobody's liable anymore.
Yeah, turn your license to kill in. What is this Python doing? I guess this just wants to know what unit is gonna come out of the Stargate from Nina.
Nina's like, I can wait.
Yeah.
Don't have enough gas to start an Oracle anyway, so
we're chilling. Yeah, very, very nice. At the same time, the stalkers were distracted with this, and at the front, this is with a couple of his own stalkers going after the pylon. I mean, the to his credit, or to Nina's credit rather, the shield battery is very well tucked in, so a little bit harder to focus fire. But yeah, I mean, Nina will end up going for the Oracle, as I can barely get words out now.
Yeah. Really, I think we started a great debate in chat. Just always happy to deliver the top quality final game of the day commentary. That's what they pay us for. So there you go.
Someone in the chat said Bond's second income was renting.
That's how he paid for it. That's how he paid for his Starbucks and avocado toast. Exactly. He just staked it. He staked it. So when he wasn't using it, other people were. There you go. Beautiful. Talk about a grind set James Bond had. What
a guy. I absolutely love it. All right, well. This game. Twilight Council going down for Nina. Robo on the side of DisK. It doesn't seem like anything too relevant has happened. If we look at units lost tab, there's only been like a couple of probes on either side. It feels like just a total of 3 probes have fallen by the looks of it all day. And now looking to make it a little bit more is Nina with 2 oracles going in. Not quite as swift as a movement as we saw from DisK and his oracles, but that's some of the best oracle dancing that I've seen in forever, really. That was nasty when he killed like 8 or 9 workers just the last game. But 4, not too bad at all.
Yeah, and Nina giving herself that opportunity to bring that harass and kind of say, like, I can probably do this a little bit better than you, taking the challenge, throwing the Stargate back into DisK's face while continuing to macro up. And I definitely like this for her, because we've seen that in that drawn out scenario where she isn't super behind, it helps a ton. So, she can play very strong from an even position, or obviously being ahead is not that hard to play from. But, plenty of people throw, but DisK has not really found that space to try and gain ground on. So he's just going to take his 3rd. I don't mind that. I like that he's getting the upgrades. This was a key area that Nina was kind of an afterthought for Nina. And I think we could see why, because she was in it for so long without the upgrades being even. But at the very least, DisK, he's not going to leave anything on the table.
Yeah, most definitely. You gotta appreciate that. It's the final game of the day, and for both of these players today as well. So both of them really, really want it. As Nina is gonna be a little bit slower to the third this time around, but still has a little bit of a worker lead. So things should equalize nicely moving into the mid game here.
Yeah, and Blink is finishing up for Nina as well. So I think that, especially because there's, you don't really have that threat. You don't feel yet anyway that something's going to come at you. The pylon on the bottom of the map here that she's reinforcing from would also give vision if a prism went nearby or over it. Same deal with the oracles in the northwest. So she feels comfortable to move out and start bringing the pressure and start getting aggressive. And this is where we need to find out what DisK is really made of. He hallucinates an immortal. I love to see that.
Absolutely love it. I mean, it could absorb a lot of damage, right? Because you really want to get those immortals removed early. So if the hallucinated immortal, I think it might be the best possible unit to hallucinate actually in a situation like this, because I can actually foresee how, as Nina, if you wanted to take the engagement, you could actually waste a full 2 volleys, or I guess the 1 before you find out that it's a hallucination. So very cool move from DisK.
Yeah, it can be really annoying too, because even if you know it's a hallucination, your units will act like it's real unless you have detection. So there's like, on one level, there's the mind game aspect of it, of like, okay, you think I have a unit I don't have, but on the other end, it's just annoying to play around it, because it's at least kind of occupying that space and keeping the real immortal from moving too far forward into the range of the stalkers.
Yeah, Nina is gonna poke once again with the oracles, though that they have been so powerful, leveraging the last little bit of HP there off the oracle. Really well done by her, as they are gonna retreat once again to the back and regen their shields on the other side, going after one of the immortals, not a hallucination, luckily for her. And that's gonna be, a pretty decent set of events here for Nina. 5 more pros go down for DisK. That is an 8 worker lead on the side of Nina. Now,
this is what we expect, though. Nina getting aggressive with the gateway units, kind of in her element with the way that this one is panned out. And DisK is, I feel like he's like, okay, I need to buy time. I'm trying to get everything else out. But the fact that the Twilight Council is just halfway done just feels so claustrophobic. He just can't really step outside of his base without Nina hitting him with the stalkers, with the oracle, and she's continuing to build a ring of intelligence gathering outside of every possible place that DisK could go.
You're baiting. I can hear your bait there. You want us to go back to the James Bond discussions? I will admit I haven't watched any of those movies, but yeah.
Pierce Brosnan ones, those are the best, okay?
Yeah, so I do have a question though, while the game is a little bit slower here. So if one of the movies is called License to Kill, does that imply or entail that he didn't have the license to kill before that movie?
Well, in the lore of the movies, the 00 signifies the license to kill. So, yeah.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if there's a literal card, but I'd like to imagine there is. At least for
he
novelty's
never did show
sake.
the certificate, right?
Yeah. I don't think he really stops to talk to local law enforcement.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless they're very attractive and single, but that's beside the point. So.
Besides the point, indeed. So, yeah, I mean, throughout the series, though, Nate, DisK has been a little bit more passive, right? Just kind of looking to absorb. And I feel like he could be a little bit more daring, a little bit more aggressive a lot of the time. But Nina does such a good job of just puffing up her chest and like being like, oh, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. And DisK seems to buy into it every time, or at least very easily concede map control, right?
Yeah, if I was trying to think of like the worst analogy for this, I'd probably go with the Muslim's favorite, the trying to be like the guy from Rocky that just gets punched until he loses. And yeah, I feel like that would apply here. I feel like if the Muslim is good, that's what he would say.
That's a guy in Rocky.
He just comes in and yeah, he just tanks it all. It's just like, oh yeah, you could just keep hitting me. I'm just gonna sit here and then die because I have no workers. So that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting right now. DisK can't leave his base. He hasn't really been able to harass. Those 2 adepts killed like 5 probes, but they're both on 4 bases. So that's just not enough. A prism needs to slip out and get 10 charge lots in the main. That's what we need to see. It's not happening. Just tries to kind of go towards that top side. The observers in siege mode can see everything. And if you're Nina, I think that this isn't the turning point. We're not really there yet because the disruptors aren't out. But this is where she needs to try and start turning this into an economic advantage. Get the 5th base up, get the probes off of that, that kind of waning mineral line in the main, and turn the contain into something that will actually get us
look at that
to a victory.
Disruptor behind the bushes, like you were saying before, by the way. So really looking to use that terrain to her advantage. Big baits there from Nina, big brain. She's always looking for that sort of play.
Now it's and in this map, it's like, oh yeah, there's a bush, but then you think back to that map that we were just on, Moondance or whatever, and there's that bush is like half the map. So absolutely nuts. But with the observer, she can see DisK's army coming over. She can still take those hits, and for whatever reason, I guess DisK has not yet to bring an observer over there. He's trying to keep the vision on the right side for any harass that might be coming. Which, by the way, it's coming. 8 zealots getting warped in just outside of that 4th.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing to me. As far as like the game, it has been competitive, and the series has been competitive on the side of DisK in the way that, and even going into it, I think perceptually he might be the stronger player in most people's eyes, even most people that are well versed in the North American scene anyway, or at least very even with Nina, right? Like Zombie Grub was saying, this is number 5, like they're contending at least for the 5th spot in North America. So it's so strange to me that DisK just doesn't care or seem to care about map control, and that he is willing to get choked so much by Nina, and still he can hold his own. But is this really necessary? And now Nina striking from the shadows because, yeah, I mean, she just doesn't, or DisK just doesn't see where she's coming from half of the time, right? Like finally he has a couple of observers or an observer or a probe to the right there. But for the most part, if we look at the vision of each player, it will be clear that Nina just has a lot more to work with.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that we have to keep in mind here too is, for everything that we've said about Nina just taking all these punches at DisK and dealing a lot of damage, DisK maxed out. He's got a lot of disruptors. One misstep here from Nina would be enough. Does get on the back end and jumps forward to snipe.
That last one, I mean, one more second and all of those disruptors would have gone boom. But as it stands, Nina takes a very comfortable position here. If she wants to advance her disruptors forward, she can siege those. Instead, it's going to bait DisK into a little bit of a bad fight there, as the oracles are still alive and dropping those. Actually, Nina's just dropping some what are those things called? My God, my brain is so scrambled right now. But she was dropping some stasis in the back during all of that to kind of prevent reinforcements. So yeah, it is a very chaotic, very hectic game, and I made the mistake to actually switch to Nina's camera for a second just to see like the vision versus DisK's, and I got dizzy because, yeah, I mean, these players are still playing very fast.
Yeah, it's been nuts. And I think one of the biggest things here too, right, that big shot, there's 10 disruptors for Nina, and there was only just 1 for DisK. He just finished 2 more. So he's gonna get back into the mix of it, but it's a whole lot easier to deal with 1 or 2 disruptors than all of those. And look, he's gonna finally try to move across the map. Did you step out of your base for half a second? I'm ready to push your base again. So 2 disruptors do get caught, but the charge lots are there. They've been reinforced from that pylon. DisK never found it. Much like that gateway in game 1, having that reinforcement, that harass point has just made the game a living hell for DisK.
That is the crazy thing, is that this game feels like a living hell for DisK, but if we look at the numbers, he is right up there the entire way through. It's just, he's making life so difficult on himself by just allowing himself to be pinned back. Good disruptor shots here. Maybe that's go time now? Maybe.
No. The play for, I mean, like Nina's already like approaching the point where the win condition will become like almost impossible to stop if she just secures all these expansions, has all this huge economic lead. DisK will mine out, he'll slowly run out of units, and then Nina will just roll up with a bunch of carriers, and there won't be anything.
All right, it's gonna be 2 disruptors. That's pretty nifty, maybe 3 even. That Nina is gonna get pick off. I mean, both of the disruptors. The disruptor groups were encroaching onto each other in a way where inevitably one of them was going to take losses there. And now on the other side, DisK is scrambling to defend against this little bit of a stalker run by, but this is going to open up things for Nina. If you're DisK, you're chasing those stalkers, wondering, okay, where are you going to strike next with the rest of your army? Because clearly these stalkers are leading me astray. Oh! All of the disruptors fold. Here comes the flank. as the disruptors have been used, Nina has to recall them back, but will end up saving them. And DisK really mostly unable to capitalize there. Now dropping 20 supply Nina, now equalizing after the next set of warp-ins, I suppose. But really, really good trades for Nina, who is now pulling ahead in the disruptor game 7-2.
And that's, I mean, the reaction time on there, it's like, okay, you got all the other disruptors, now the DTs come in on the backside to harass, but that was just a clutch move. Recognizing, okay, my opponent has a lot of stalkers, my disruptors are all on cooldown. I can't save everything, but I can just recall directly onto the disruptors themselves. The most important, critical part to maintain with this composition. So does that beautifully. The DTs are going to hack and whack and smack this base down. Disruptor only gets 2 of them. And so it goes.
Unlucky. That is so nasty because DisK is back to 3 bases versus Nina, who has done a great job of utilizing the map control that she has had throughout this game. She is up to what, 6 bases. So really, when I say 3, I mean like the main is mostly mined out, the natural is mostly mined out, the third is starting to mine out for DisK. So it is not a pretty situation economically speaking, whereas Nina is going to be very comfortable here. So DisK trying to do what he can with his own DTs, and this feels like, you know, like okay, like I guess I have no economy, so now I have to move out and I have to attack. And now Nina's like, wow, you've been this scary this entire game, but she will go for the counterattack like you were mentioning, and this is what DisK was kind of fearing. Another great disruptor shot apparently having landed there in the middle is going to make it harder and harder for DisK to continue to push on forward as one of his last 2 disruptors gets picked off by the Blade.
Yeah, this is why taking the bases with the contain was the most important thing, because DisK pushed back. He took out a couple of the bases of Nina, but Nina still has the bottom right bases fully saturated and mining. So we're getting into these situations where there's some brutal trades each way, but Nina's got all the money in the world to rebuild, and DisK does not. His main is totally, well, not completely. There's a couple pennies still to be scrounged out of the couch there, but the natural is about halfway through, a little bit more than that. So you don't really have too much income coming in from so few mineral patches, and that just makes it really hard. Gives up the Zealots to blink forward and dive on the Disruptor, and that's a nice pick. But look, Nina's going into another Stargate, +1 air, because she recognizes that if this is like some weird stalemate thing, then maybe she wants to have other options, but I'm not sure it's going to even need to come to that.
Yeah. This is the only weird decision for Nina right now is, even though her army will destroy DisK's army in a straight up fight, DisK has mobility and he has the faster base trading army. So she is still hesitant to go for that base trade, right? Because she knows that DisK is onto base anyway, so she just has to look for the fight. Whereas DisK needs to continue to hit and run. But like you said, I mean, there's only a couple of pennies left over for him to mine in his main and natural base, and I really just can't see a world where that can afford him a license to kill.
Yeah. No. Membership fees. That's where they really get you. That's where they really get you, Paolo. You know, that auto renew hits, and you're like, I didn't know they raised the prices. Yeah.
Yeah. There's gonna be 3 probes here. Ready.
I feel like you've painted this picture as accurately as it can be. That DisK doesn't really have that much to lose, so he would love to force the base trade. There's still probably too much base to kill for that to really work anyway, but yeah, I get, you know, I kind of get it in earnest.
Yep.
And he still doesn't even know about Nina's bases in the very bottom right corner.
GG.
That'll do it. GG, Nina.